So today is launch day for the 9950X3D and 9900X3D CPUs from AMD, and you can get them at your local microcenter. Now, in my hand here, I have a 9950X3D, and this thing is awesome. 16 cores, 32 threads, 128 megabytes of that expanded L3 cache, which is just so perfect for gaming. This is not just a gaming CPU. This is actually a gaming/productivity CPU, and the reviews are in, and it's pretty good. Now, some eagle-eyed viewers may already notice that the box I'm holding is actually empty. And that's because I already put the CPU in this build here because I wanted to make the ultimate gaming/creator build. Everything on the table here is top of the line, and you can get it all at your local microcenter. And all in all, everything here is about $4,800, which that's a lot, obviously, but you are getting the best performance and the best experience. Now, the 9950X3D CPU I already put in this build, and I'm pairing that off with an AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT GPU, which just came out last week. That's gonna be a great pairing, so it's gonna do really well for gaming at 1440 or even 4K. And you can also do some really good video editing with that as well. And for the monitor, I went with this big guy right here. This is the Samsung G9, and this is a 49-inch OLED ultra-wide curved display. This thing is so cool. 240 hertz. I mean, this is basically two 24-inch monitors put together side by side, and it gives you such an immersive experience when you're gaming, but it's also really good for video editing as well. Now, I'm really excited. We'll talk more about what went into the build, but I really want to get driving on this guy. Let's go. For this build, I went strictly for aesthetics. I wanted to go for a black and white theme all across the board, and everything here matches that theme perfectly. The case, I went with the Height Y60. I really like this case a lot. Very easy to build in, and also had 3 fans already built in, and then I went with a couple of extra height fans as well. But for cooling the 9950X3D CPU, since it has that 170 watt TDP, I wanted to go with an AIO, but I also wanted to show off a little bit, so I went with the Height Thick Q60 AIO. This thing is so cool. So it has this gigantic LCD screen over here, and I went and I programmed that so it could have Samus from Metroid, because I'm a big Metroid fan, obviously. And you can put your CPU usage, you can put your GPU usage, liquid temperatures, anything else that you want with that. And I think it looks really cool. Now for RGB, all we're getting is RGB from the AIO as well as from this Trident G-Skill RAM. 64 gigabytes total, so that's two 32 gigabyte sticks, but that's gonna be enough for video editing and for gaming. But if you want more, you're definitely gonna need more for content creation. Content creation always needs more RAM, but 64 gigabytes, that's a really good starting point. And one thing I wanna call out for this AIO, they call it the thick, and that's because the rad is actually a lot thicker than traditional radiators. So you can see right here, even though it only has 2 fans on there, and this is about a 240 millimeter rad, this is a thicker rad, so there's more area or surface area to dispose of all of that extra heat. So it's gonna take care of the heat just fine. For the motherboard, we went with the Gigabyte Aorus X870E, and this is the ICE. So again, for that black and white theme, ties it all together. I'm really happy with the way that this build came out. I mean, it just looks nice, it looks clean. I'm a big fan. Oh, and one last thing, for storage, we went with a 2 terabyte Samsung 990 EVO Plus. So that's gonna give us enough storage for all of our games and our operating system, but for content creation, you're gonna want more drives for a cache and for extra backups and things like that. And fortunately, this X870E motherboard has plenty of M2 slots that you can fill up, so you can get more SSDs as you go. But just to start off, the 2 terabyte, that's gonna do us just fine. So now over here, you can see our Samsung G9, 49 inches. This is super wide. I physically have to turn my neck just to see either end of this. It's kind of crazy, actually. And it feels like having 2 displays in one. I have DaVinci Resolve over here, and obviously I have Steam open over here. So, video editing, gaming, what should I start with first? I'm gonna start with gaming. Let's try out Cyberpunk. I'm actually really excited for this. Now, for our peripherals, I also wanted to match with the black and white theme, so I went with this Basilisk Pro, and this is a wireless mouse from Razer. This thing is really comfortable. I like that it has the extra keys on there too, so I like using keybinds for all of my video editing as well as some games. A lot of shooters, I like to use the keybinds. And it has a wireless dongle here, so if you want that really high polling rate, you can use that. So I just have that set up over there. And then for our keyboard, I have this really nice white keyboard from NZXT. This is the Function Elite 10 keyless. Really, really nice looking. And obviously, RGB on the keyboard and mouse. Now, while we're loading up Cyberpunk, I want to talk a little bit about the 9950X3D CPU. Now, this is a continuation of the rest of these Zen 5 CPUs that are coming out from AMD. Obviously, we had the full 9000 series leading up to the 9950X. Now that we have the X3D variants with that expanded L3 cache, we're kind of rounding out all of the AMD CPUs for this, for this year. I got distracted because, wow, okay. Oh my goodness, this is so wide, it's like wrapping around my own head. Now, the 9950X3D CPU has two CCDs, or core complex dies, one of which is going to have that expanded L3 cache, and the other one does not have that L3 cache. The cool thing about Zen 5 and what they did was they changed the way that the architecture is stacked. So the cores, or the CCDs, are actually at the top, and the L3 cache, that V cache, is underneath. So that allows you to disperse that heat a lot better than you did on the previous generation, so you can get more stable clocks. And that stable clock speed and those higher clocks that you can get, sustain them at a higher clock, that's really good for productivity, and that's where you're getting that boost in productivity. But on the other end of the spectrum, having that one CCD with that expanded cache, perfect for gaming. And again, this is absolutely wild. I have this set to like Ray Trace Ultra, and this is just absolutely crazy. I'm just so excited about the CPU. That is insane. Look at that, you can look down at his hands. His hand is almost the size of mine. So I'm getting about 278 frames per second, and this is on ultra settings. I turned ray trace off. So pairing off the 9950 X3D with that RX 9070 XT, you're getting the best that AMD has to offer right now. And I have to say, performance-wise, this is great. This monitor is, 5140 by 1440. So this is still a 1440 resolution, even though it has that ultra-wide aspect to it. But this is performing really, really nicely. And I am using the new FSR, so that's definitely helping with that frame rate, but 278 frames right now. We talk about immersion for gaming, especially when it comes to these like RPG games that are like really just, you're meant to just fall into the world and just sink yourself in and really feel like you're there. And I gotta say, having a monitor like this, it really gives that immersive feel. Like, this is absolutely nuts. When it comes to performance, obviously the 9800X3D has been the king of gaming CPUs this year, but now that we have the 9950X3D, you can really get that balance. You can still get that really awesome gaming performance, but you also get those productivity boosts as well, and that's what we're going to be seeing here with this build. Now, when I put this build together, honestly, this was a really easy build to do. It only took me a little bit over an hour or so because I spent some time doing some of the cable management, but everything came together really nicely. I do want to give a shout out to this Aorus RX 9070 XT. Even though this is a black variant, it still matches our build very, very well. And I'm also using the riser here, so it's mounted vertically. And I gotta say, this is doing really nice. There's two fans underneath. I have three fans at the top for exhaust. Obviously, I'm using the AIO for intake, but thermal-wise, I mean, we're looking great. CPU utilization, 32%, about 70 degrees on that CPU right now. And again, that 170 watt TDP, that's definitely on the higher side in terms of what's going on with some of the other AMD CPUs right now, but you're getting a lot of power out of this. So that's one thing to take into consideration. So definitely want to make sure you have a cooling solution that's going to be able to keep up with this CPU. But I just have to say, this combination, all in all, this feels so nice. Like a gaming setup like this is absolutely phenomenal. Why don't we try another game? All right, so our frame rate in Counter-Strike 2, 231, 238 FPS. Now, when it comes to frame rates and your CPU, where you're gonna see the biggest difference is at 1080. If you stack up all the different CPUs available on the market, and if you test out frame rates, you're gonna see the biggest difference at 1080 because that sort of negates the GPU from the equation. But once you start stepping up in resolution, your GPU should be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, you're still gonna get gains from having a really good CPU, obviously. You wanna make sure that you have something that's gonna be able to keep up with your GPU and not bottlenecking you. But at this resolution, the combination of this CPU, GPU, that's where you're getting all of the gains. So that's a long way of saying that you're gonna be getting a lot of gains here, but there's still a lot of other factors that it's heavily dependent on. And all of the reviews are rolling in for the 9950X3D, and honestly, all the reviews are kind of glowing. I mean, everyone is singing its praises, not just for gaming, but for productivity, because it really is designed to be the best of both worlds. All right, so now I'm gonna open DaVinci Resolve because that's our editing program of choice here at microcenter. And right off the bat, I mean, look at this. This is incredible. That's my entire timeline. And this is only a 5-minute video, but I can have my entire timeline all in one window. This is absolutely incredible. And the cool thing is, especially if you go to something like the color tab where there's a lot that you have to look at. For instance, we have our scopes, we have our color wheels over here, we have all of our nodes up there. I mean, this is a really comprehensive way to get everything you need all in one screen. Actually, there's really no need for dual monitor setups with this. This is absolutely incredible. Now with the 9950X3D, there are boosts to productivity. And what does that mean? That means for creative apps like 3D rendering, Blender, DaVinci Resolve, your Adobe suite of products, all of those will take advantage of all of those cores, all of those threads, and those boosted clocks. Because again, you can maintain a higher clock speed due to the way they redid the Zen 5 architecture and changed the way that they stack the CCD and the Vcache. So you're getting a lot of benefits there. So when we talk about this being the best of both worlds, it truly is. You really are getting the best of gaming and the best of productivity, which for someone like me, that's something that I really value a lot because I want a machine that can handle everything I throw at it. I want to be able to play all of my games at the craziest resolutions, which we can obviously do here, but I also want to make sure that I can handle all of my work as well. Like I can work like this. I can have my script, my notes, and I can have Teams and emails like over here all in one monitor, which is absolutely incredible. So when you talk about a CPU that's meant for productivity, I mean, this is what productivity looks like. Obviously not having 3 Edge browsers open simultaneously, but really just having 3 windows open simultaneously. Because I'll have all of this, and then I'll go back to my edit, and I have everything here. And in terms of performance, I mean, scrubbing through the timeline, nice and snappy. The GPU and the CPU, this combination is going to work really, really well. So render times are going to be great. This will work well for 3D rendering, or if you use AutoCAD or anything like that, you're going to get very good performance. So right off the bat, everything here obviously is top of the line that you can get at Micro Center right now. And you can get a setup like this to do all of your gaming, all of your productivity, and all of your streaming as well. If you want to be a streamer, I mean, this is the kind of setup that you're going to want to use. Even with a camera like this. I mean, the Osmo Pocket 3 is not part of all of this. I'm just using this as our face cam, but it can be used as a webcam, and it has face tracking too. So that's a really nice added feature. So all of this is to say, we went for form, function, we went for style, we went for power, and I think we have all of that and more with this build. I'm really, really happy with the way that this build came out. Again, it was very easy to do. The build was very seamless. I had a good time putting this together. We even did a time lapse of the build, and that was a lot of fun. So let me know in the comments below what you think about the new AMD CPUs. And remember, you can pick this up at your local Micro Center. We have the 9950X3D CPU. We have the 9900X3D CPU, which we'll do in a future video. And you can also get your hands on the RX 9070 and RX 9070 XT GPUs. I gotta say, AMD is really crushing it this year. So I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for Team Red. Remember, stop by your local Micro Center. And if you don't have a Micro Center near you, then comment hashtag I want a Micro Center near me.